Good morning, good day, actually. Good day, everyone who is viewing this live at this very moment. Hope everyone is good. Today is marking a very exciting day, I must say, because we are here at the Desmond Tutu Great Hall and we are here for the Chapters and Conversations event that is happening right here on the 29th of May 2026. My name is Lebogambo Hlalidolo, Lady L, on the dial, your guardian steward, your director, into making sure that we are setting the tone correctly. I will be guiding you through today's different conversations, informing you on the different atmosphere that we are having throughout the day. So for the chapters and conversation, this is really a space where it was designed for all the book lovers out there, people who just enjoy reading, people who have a thing for literature. So that's why we are gathered here. So on behalf of VUT and VUT FM, you and I get to be here. If you are someone that is curious, if you are someone that is into dialogue, and you are a person that loves storytelling, I'm super excited that we get to meet here this very day. And we are unlocking Unbecoming to Become by Ayanda Borotho. That's why we are gathered here and we are super excited. I want to welcome all the students, all the staff, everyone that's here, to our stakeholders, external stakeholders, community members. You and I are all gathered in for the love of books. So super excited that you and I are getting to do this amazing thing together, guys. So continue to watch us on our live, do send comments, share, and hashtag VUT, hashtag VUT60, hashtag VUT FM 96.9. So guys, I would like to start off with a very interesting, say, guys, when you are truly becoming a version of yourself that you can be proud of, usually you have to let go of the things that hold you back, right? And I'm super excited because on this side, we are seeing something that is super symbolic of why we are all gathered here this midday. So as you can see, we are here, and the big question that we are looking at this very, midday is, what are you unbecoming? And that's the overall theme that I need us to really pay attention to. Okay? It's leaving behind certain things and basking into a new you, right? Think of this as like you going through different transformations, right? You have to have a journey where you have a moment of reflection, a release, and of course, a return to yourself. So that's why we are here. And we are seeing our special guest enter the foyer right here for the big event. So super excited that she has indeed joined us. And we are officially about to begin with our event, guys. So let us all gather, and we are seeing awesome things. We have to really get into dialogue and talk about the book itself. What are you reflecting at this very moment? What is it that you are talking about? Like, if you had to re-look within, what are you leaving behind? So that's why we are here. So let's continue to bask in the moment. Let's continue to enjoy, because without VUT and the VUT FM involvement, you and I would not be here. And it's always so nice that we have institutions such as these that create events such as these where we can truly, truly bask in, learning and really falling in love with books again and getting to, be together to have great dialogues where we look at different perspectives. And so let us.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon. Hello, how are you doing this afternoon? You look good, so you should be good, okay? Just give yourself a snap. Clock it, period. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Zintle Mbali, and I am a host of a show called On the Table at VUT FM 96.9. So I air from Mondays to Thursdays, 8 to 9 p.m. Are you going to check me out? Do you promise? Okay, cool. Welcome to Chapters and Conversations. It's really exciting to have you here today. And maybe you're here for the first time and you're thinking, what an amazing concept, right? And you're thinking, how many of these have I missed? So let me just give you a background of where it actually started. So Chapters and Conversations started about 2 years ago in 2024. And initially, it started as a book review feature, right, on a show called The Saturday Touch. And after that, it was just to introduce rather the necessity for reading, especially in our communities, because reading has become a lost art, right? And from then the impact, or rather the demand for this, continued to grow, where they then hosted a round table situation, okay? And then they thought, let's bring it to the people, and this is why we're here. This is actually the second edition of Chapters and Conversations in such a setup. So I'm truly excited. Last year we had Kaya Dlanga, who was just talking to us about his book, and today, as you can see, we have an absolutely phenomenal woman, an amazing woman joining us today. So please give it a round of applause. I have to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, it is, the priority of VUT FM 96.9, as well as the Vaal University of Technology, to host such platforms as to encourage impact, especially in our communities, to encourage an open dialogue, as well as, authentic engagement. So I'm hoping that you are excited and that you're ready to engage, because today's conversation is not just about listening, it's also about you engaging and communicating just in what we're going to be discussing today. There are many amazing topics. As someone who has read the book, there are many amazing and really important conversations that we're going to have today around identity, around growth, around empowerment, and so many other subjects. So I'm hoping that you are ready to fully engage, right? Is everybody ready? Okay. For this part, I have to read because it's so important, right? So please excuse me. But it definitely is my ultimate pleasure to introduce to you our speaker and facilitator of this conversation, Ms. Tato Belang, who is a leadership coach. She's an organizational development consultant. She is an author. She's a TEDx speaker, and her work just focuses on authenticity, on transformative leadership, and personal growth. She herself also is an author, okay? So there's levels. Do you see that? She also is the author of a book called The Authenticity Equation, Living and Leading from the Inside Out. And it's a powerful framework that just explores the connection, especially between inner identity and outward leadership. With over 20 years of speaking, or rather with over 20 years of experience in coaching, facilitating, and public speaking, she's also passionate about developing women leaders and empowering people to truly embrace their authentic selves. So if you know that you're that leader, or if you truly want to empower your authentic self, you are definitely at the right space today, okay? So are you excited? Cool. Over to you, Ms. Belang, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everybody. Are you excited to be here? Have you read the book? We know we're going to test you. If you haven't read the book, it's going to show. Thank you so much, Ayanda, for spending the time with us this afternoon.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much. Thank you guys for coming.
All right, so I really am hopeful for a powerful, thought-provoking, just a human conversation. So today is not just a book, right? It's not just about the book. So although we've got the book and we hear about the book, but it's also about identity, it's about healing, it's about purpose, authenticity, and also the stories that we have inherited, and somehow have become part of us and part of our journey. So also, lastly, the courage it takes to become. So this is not it's not going to be it's not intended to be a formal interview between me and Ayanda. I'm inviting you into this conversation, a human conversation where we really explore some of the themes in this incredible book. I hope you guys had fun as much as I did. I mean, I cried, I laughed, I was triggered, I pondered, and I had to walk away and come back, and I wrote a lot, and because I had to think about, Tatu, where are you on this journey? And so I had to have difficult conversations with myself and interrogate even part of myself that I thought I had dealt with. So this is the conversation today. It's truly a human conversation and an invitation to check where you are in your own journey. So, let's talk about the woman behind the book. Ayanda, what was happening internally that made this book necessary for you?
Sure. Not a simple first question. So, when I thought about writing the book, and it was a thought or an idea that I believe God had planted in me, I was just in a very, very dark place, this very dark place. I couldn't quite understand the turmoil. I couldn't understand the sadness. It just felt like I was sitting at the pit of my stomach, and it was dark. And for everybody outside looking in and looking at my life, they would have thought, she's crazy. She's married because marriage is an achievement, I guess.
Yeah?
She's got boy children because boy children are an achievement in marriage, I guess. That's what we're taught.
Yeah.
And she's working, she's got a business. I was on one of the biggest shows in the country at the time, Isibaya. So things were going well for me from the outside looking in. Things were going really, really well. But I was a hot mess. Oof. And I wasn't really able to articulate what that feeling was until I think even after I wrote the book, because I don't say this in the book, but I realize now that it was a grief, a mourning of self. Because every time I'd look at myself and I'd engage with self, I didn't know who I was. I was everything to everybody else, but I was nothing to self. Or I couldn't articulate for myself what I was to self. I was mom, I was wife, I was businesswoman, I was actress, I was all of these things and all these beautiful titles. But I just could not remember who Ayanda was and what Ayanda was about. So that's where I was when I wrote the book. And I'd started this caption, Unbecoming to Become, and I'd started interrogating some of the narratives that women have to live through because of how we're conditioned, how we're socialized. And I'd write like small captions on my Instagram. And people started saying, no, but we need more. Like, can you write a book? And I was like, guys, it's captions, y'all. It's, relax.
It's not the juice.
Relax. It's captions. And I remember distinctly hearing God's voice saying, write a book. And I thought, this is crazy. I didn't grow up thinking I was going to write a book. This is why I embrace the title author, but I didn't grow up thinking I was going to write a book. I think I've just been a vessel of a message in this time and for this generation, and it just so happened that it came through a book, right? So I didn't grow up thinking I was going to write a book. So I went to Exclusive Books. When I heard this voice, I went to Exclusive Books, and I'm like trying to compare. I'm like looking at people. I'm like, what the hell? What are you expecting me to do?
Syndrome
I'm
crept
like, I can't do this. And then the day that I decided that, okay, I'm going to do this, I remember I took up my laptop and my notebook, and I just started to write the chapters. if I'd be lying if I didn't say to you, the chapters as you see them are as they were when I first wrote them.
I believe you.
And I say this at the end of the book, that actually the words had always been in me. They were just waiting for the right time. So God divine, God appointed, God led, I yielded, and that's how I got to write the book. But I can tell you now, I was in a very, very dark space, and that book helped me to introspect.
Wow, what a powerful introspection, because now we're reaping the benefit. And I think yielding, I love the word you use, I just yielded. Because sometimes God takes us to the valley, and it is at a point of the valley that we get to rise up to the mountain. We have to reach the valley first.
Sure.
And there's something that you said that I think a lot of people struggle with. It's like, I'm everything to everyone. But I don't think a lot of people, very sadly, get to a point where they're like, but who am I? Who am I beyond these titles and roles and accolades that I've acquired through life's journey? Who are at the core of my being before I was Mrs. to whoever, before I was this and that and a mother and a sister and whatever else? Who am I? And sadly, a lot of people die even before they discover this. And I'm so glad that you got to your point. And I think hopefully this also highlights the importance of this book, because I think it's where it's going to help a lot of people. Surely, as you were pouring yourself and your heart in the book, there were some emotional losses that you had to trade off with. Did this book cost you anything emotionally at all, penning it down? And if that's the case, what did it cost you?
I don't know if it cost me anything. I think more than anything, it gave me back my power.
That's powerful.
It cost me my truth, but at the expense of my power, right? So the trade-off was my truth for my power. And I think that's where a lot of people struggle, because it's so difficult to live in truth because of what the world expects us to be.
Correct.
And so we go through life constantly surviving and not really living in our power. And our power is in our truth. So it cost me the truth, but it's also a truth that nobody can use against me, because I was the first to speak it. So I always say to people, like, if uzong attack ngezinto ezila, you can forget about it. I wrote about it first. There's nothing you don't know. I wrote about it first. I was the first to expose it to you. And that's the beautiful thing about truth and living in your authenticity, is that nobody can use it against you.
Correct.
Nobody can use it against you. So, yeah, it cost me a lot of truth and having to dig deep into places that were painful. There were times when I would write and sometimes put the book aside, because having to go back and relive those moments and those times was hard. But what was even more powerful in the unlearning was rewriting that narrative for myself.
Rewriting the narrative for yourself.
Yeah.
That is, and I love it. You are reclaiming your power, like you
Yes.
said. And I mean, you write so honestly about dethroned. Speaking of power, right? Dethroned, when you had a conversation with your grandmother, when you were like, but I'm here, right? When it was your brothers and your mother really wanted them to take the position. You're like, but I'm here, I'm taking care of you, I'm doing everything. And you felt dethroned when she said, but you're going to be getting married somewhere else, right? You're not going to leave this family. Beyond that moment and in that reality with your grandmother, what does this reveal about how women are located in families and in society, especially in the Black communities?
So for context, because I know some of you haven't read the book. For context, the very first chapter of the book is called Dethroned. And I was back home in Mgababa, where my father comes from, and my paternal grandmother, uManqumalo uZwitekalanga uMkhatshwa. Beautiful, 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 strong woman. What a matriarch. Umanqumalo loved me to no end. But I can tell you this much. She didn't love me like my brothers. And you know these things, man, Mukula, you see them.
Yeah.
You know, her eyes just didn't light up in the same way that, you know, they did when my brothers walked into the room as compared to when I walked into the room. You know, you see these things and you see them in the subtle nuances of, you know, who's going to take over the family, who's going to look after me, who's going to. And so, Ugogo, by this time I was already working, I was driving my Beamer 320 diesel, I had my little office and my clock it. I was already working. Things happened for me very quickly, hey?
Yeah.
Very, very quickly in my life. And I think it was for a reason. I mean, I left home when I was 17, when I finished matric, came to Joburg with just a suitcase and nothing, and made a life for myself and for my family. So I worked really, really hard when I arrived here. And so I'm back home now. Ne 320 yami, mnyama, black, and every time I go home, the boot is packed with groceries. She lacked for nothing. I lost my dad when I was 11, and my dad was in Nkosana, meaning the heir. And when I don't think Ugogo ever recovered from my dad's passing, but when my dad passed away, by the time I was working, I literally stepped into my father's shoes.
Sure.
That's how I'll call it strong, and I say it without being apologetic, because before I used to say it and be very apologetic about it. But I stepped into my father's shoes, took care of the family back home, and I'd made a conscious decision that if I don't survive, my family is not going to survive, because I knew I was the strongest. But also, it's also because Ubaba, my own father, had treated me as such. He had really put me on that throne as to say, this is not even my girl child, but this is my child.
Lovely.
Who will. Ingakho ngabizwa Ayanda. Ayanda amabovu, meaning yowandisa umndeni wasemabovini.
Wow.
So we're having this conversation, no Gogo. She is worried. Uguti, guys, I don't know who's going to take care of the family home after I pass. I'm in my old age now, so she calls my brothers, me, and my mom. But as we're having this conversation, I realize she's not talking to me. She's talking to my brothers. So when my brothers, who had a little bit to drink, were like, "Hey, Gogo, we're not interested in this conversation. We're too young for these things." You know, because Gogo's like, "But I'm not seeing a makota, I'm not seeing children, I'm not seeing anything. What's going on? There are no serious relationships. What's happening?" And they're like, "Hey, Gogo, this is too much. We're like 24, 25. You can't be asking us about marriage and children and all that."
Yeah.
So they leave the room. And she's very disappointed. You can see her heart sank. So I turned to her and I said, "But Gogo,
Hello.
hey,
I'm here.
I just filled up your fridge." So I'm like, "But Gogo, I'm here. Why aren't you asking me?" And Gogo turns around and says, "Because phela wena Ayanda, one day you will leave this home. You will go into another family. You will marry, and there they will expect you to also bear them heirs who will continue the family lineage." And in that moment, Tato, I know now that Ugogo didn't realize or understand how those words impacted me. And I also didn't in the moment. It was only after I started writing this book that the first memory, when I started my healing journey, the first memory I went to was this one. And I remembered this moment. And I realized what Ugogo did in that moment was dethrone me from the throne my father had placed me on. With just those words. Because what it said to to me as a girl child at 25, doing all of this, was that it wasn't enough, but also that I didn't belong. So ma ungitrona uthi I don't belong here, where do I belong? Because nala ngiyakhona ngas. Where do I belong? So, as I started my healing journey, I started to unpack. In the book, I call them coats. And I say, when we're all born, we're born with unique coats. Yours could be rubies and diamonds, mine pearls, yours gold. No coat is the same. It coats as in each as. Call them coats. And the coats are so unique that they're much like our DNA. But by the time we reach age 3, we have formulated an identity about ourselves that is not ours, but one that is imposed on us by virtue of what we observe. Who here comes from a home where ubaba had a chair, for instance? Okay, maybe your grandfather had a chair.
My dad.
Because we're also in a generation where things are changing.
Yeah.
Mina ngwaKwaZulu. Ubaba not only has a chair, he has his own plate, he has his own spoon and everything, right?
Yes.
Right? Who here comes from a home where ubaba stands up after dinner and cleans after everybody and goes to wash the dishes?
Ah, you're asking for too much, my sister.
Do you know why I say that? Because by the age of 3, 4, no one is saying anything to me. But remember, as children, we formulate power narratives, love narratives by what we observe, not what we're taught.
Yeah.
So I'm a 3-year-old observing that ubaba has all the authority and uma has all the responsibility. What does that say about me as a girl child? I bear responsibility, but Baba has all the authority. So that's the first code, right? When you look at the power dynamics in the home, in the family. And then we move on to, let's say, being introduced to divinity, right? So I might offend you if you're Christian, but there's God, there's Jesus, and then there's the Holy Spirit. And all of these are male. So where am I? Where am I represented in divinity? As a young girl. Remember, I'm getting this concept of divinity ngisamncane because we're going to church, but I realize that divinity lies with men. So if God is made in my image, in my likeness, what is this image and likeness that only looks like males? And not Mina as a girl child, I'm not represented in divinity. So that's another coat that I wear, because now this is a coat that is, and so the way I describe the coats is that as I go through life, I'm collecting all these coats that I keep wearing that are not mine, that don't belong to me, that are imposed on me by virtue of socialization, conditioning, cultural conditioning, religious conditioning, stereotyping, and all of these things. I collect these coats, and these coats are dirty. Some of them are small, some of them have holes, some of them are too big, some of them are heavy, some of them are stained. But here I am as this young girl who's now buried in all these coats that don't belong to me, that society has imposed on me. And so, this one, Gakok, was the first coat I had to address. But I had to rewrite the narrative, one, by forgiving. And Mangumalo and I, even though she's departed, had our own conversation, having to let go and forgive her for those words. Because she essentially dethroned, because remember, I thought, you know when somebody you look up to that you love with all your might and heart, they are your role model, and they say to you, you don't matter. And I think they are a queen. And for me, I think the hardest thing about the dethroned chapter was that when Ugogo passed away, Mgababa, the family home, that family home ceased to exist.
Sure.
I went back there 7 years after she passed. I went back again when my twin brother passed away 1.5 years ago to bury him there. But when Gogo died, the home left with her.
Sure.
And the most painful thing for me was seeing that or understanding that she didn't understand how much power she possessed, so much so that she couldn't pass it on to me. And so I think sometimes we get displaced as girl children because we worry so much in the cultural narrative about lineage because of isibongo, and we don't focus on legacy. And legacy can be carried by anybody. Legacy can be carried by anybody. And in fact, the lineage one, we still have to challenge because biologically, we carry more of our mothers than we do our fathers. Anyway.
I mean, you say such a lot of interesting things, such pearls, but I want to talk about identity because, I mean, that interrogated your identity full, and you spoke about how all of these social, religion, customs, cultural expectations and norms that actually do influence our identity and how we see ourselves, how we carry ourselves, and then pass it on to our children and so on. When do you know when you are living authentically, right? Because this is like, and you and I spoke, earlier on about when there's a misalignment, you will know, right? But how do you know when you are living authentically versus performing because that's what's expected? Like you said, how much Gogo meant to you. Gogo was everything to you. So you did a lot of things to please Ugogo, to be everything, to get approval from Ugogo, to get that you did it, Ayanda, I'm proud of you. How much do we go around life moving away from who we are innately to just to belong? Because we want to belong, because we want to be pleased, because we want to do that, and we move away from who we truly are, our authentic self.
I don't think that authenticity can exist outside of truth. So for me, how I know is, am I being truthful to self? And I think one of the things I said to you earlier was, I don't want to have to interrogate something. When I belong, when I belong or when I'm aligned, it's got to feel right. It feels right. But when I'm asking myself questions and I'm having to pray over and over about it, then something's not right. And I'll give you something that happened recently, actually. A friend of mine, and I don't know, Yolanda, if I should be speaking about this, but a friend of mine, and somebody very dear to me, had been accused of sexually assaulting someone. And because I'd been part of or I knew about the story for a long time, when it happened and what had actually transpired. So this comes into the public domain 2 years after the fact, right? And so I then send, when this person has released their statement, I send a message under his statement on Instagram, Eri Love and Light. Boy, did some of y'all come for me. But in that moment, what was more important for me was whether I could shut down the noise, because I knew the noise would come.
True.
Could I shut down the noise and act in truth in that moment and not worry or care what the world thinks?
That is so profound.
And so I did. So for a minute, I'm on Instagram and I'm thinking, am I going to send this? And I'm like, love it. And then I'm like, hey, they're gonna come for me. And I'm like, okay, what are you gonna do? What's true for you in this moment? What's true for me was that I wanted to send love and light to somebody I deeply care about.
Yes.
And so I did.
Well done.
And when the world started to come for me, I mean,
You were
I was so
prepared.
unbothered. I was so
You were
unbothered.
prepared.
But it's taken me a long time to get to that place.
course, yeah.
I was unbothered. I was unbothered also because I know that the people who know me also know that I wouldn't jeopardize my career and my reputation for something like that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't. And for everything that I speak on and everything that I advocate for, I would not jeopardize my entire reputation just for a love and light comment. And also it was open to interpretation. I mean, that's another topic. It was open to interpretation. I think had the accuser said something to me, I probably would have said love and light. But ngoba niyaqina, niyaphapha. Senile kude. You don't even know what it means. Anyway, that's another topic. But
yeah.
all I'm trying to say is, I seriously had to battle with whether I was going to live in my truth in that moment and be authentically self and do what my heart was leading me to do. And I did.
Well done. And it takes bucket loads of courage, right, to do that. I mean, I always say authenticity requires bucket loads of courage, because what it means is, even if the whole world is going that way, if it feels completely misaligned internally, you're going to choose the opposite. It doesn't matter who says what.
Yeah.
And so that's what you did in that moment. But we understand, and we're saying that it's not easy. Unbecoming is a journey. And so that's what we're saying. So here's my question to you, you sitting here, listening to this. How much of you today is truly you? I want you to think about it. Go home and think about it. How much of you today is truly you, and how much is it what's learned based on what you needed to become because you wanted to be accepted, you wanted to be loved, you wanted to belong, you wanted to succeed even. And so the codes that Ayanda was talking about, I'm inviting you to go and interrogate the codes that you are carrying. And I know those codes are heavy because they're not yours. So there's a lot of baggage, there's heaviness, and sometimes you even cry. Sometimes you feel like, but where am I going? Who am I? Because that's not feel like me. So ponder on that. Let's talk about love, womanhood, and relationships. Your reflections on Straight. I mean, the chapter, I just love the chapter, guys. I mean,
Zippy straights. Where are the straights in the house?
the Straights.
The main chicks.
The main chicks. Oh, he put a ring on it. Your reflections on Straight when you were Straight at some point made me think very deeply about the kinds of love, you know, many of us witnessed growing up. A lot of the things that we carry comes from the early holding environment. We know that, from how we grew up. Do you think many women confused endurance with love because of what they saw modeled as they were growing up?
Oh yeah, yes, of course. That's a no-brainer. Even they're saying yes. Doesn't take. That's a no-brainer. Of course, the
looking forward to your
Begazela narrative. Of course, yes. Again, when we look at that narrative of mom responsibility, dad authority, it's mom who carries the responsibility of making sure the marriage works. It's the woman who carries the responsibility of making sure that the marriage works. And when it doesn't work, it's also her fault. You know, it doesn't matter if he's cheated, it doesn't matter if he's been continuously cheating. When it doesn't work, it's your fault. You couldn't keep a man. So, of course, but I'm glad that with this generation of young people, and I say this because I have a 24-year-old daughter. I know I look good for somebody who has a 24-year-old daughter. But for somebody who has a 24-year-old daughter, and I have these conversations with her, I am glad that the generation of today is saying it's not about quantity, but more the quality.
Yeah.
It's not the quantity of the years that make a relationship good, but it is the quality. What we've been able to impart, and I think as we evolve as women, as we learn more, as we impart more on the generations to come, we really are changing the posture of women and what they are willing to accept and not accept. I am going to say this because there are a lot of people who think that I'm anti-marriage, and I'm not. I think marriage is a beautiful institution when it's done right. Angufuna umshado ozongibulala. Nana nginifunela umshado ozongibulala. And I just want to clear that because there are a lot of people who think I'm anti-marriage, and I'm not. I think marriage is a beautiful. In fact, I always say marriage is where we really are able to be in control of what we can impact on the world, especially when it comes to our children. You know, people talk about changing the world, and they always think they have to be on big stages, and you know, you've got to be here, you've got to be on radio, you've got to be on a TV screen to impact the world. But real change and impacting society really happens at home. If you want to change the world, you've got to change yourself first, and in changing yourself, that impacts how you raise your children, and that changes your children. And those children become part of a broader society, and the change that you have impacted in them, they will continue to impact in the world. So for me, marriage as a structure is I don't know what the word is, but it's still an important structure.
Yeah.
And I don't want young people thinking that umshado umshado usiyintembi, abantu ababi, umshado
Yes. That's so beautiful. I'm actually surprised that some people think you're anti-marriage. I mean, you're in a healthy mood. Anyway, but people like that. But I mean, you just touched on something where there's such twisted ideas. I mean, when I brought the East straight things, it's like, I just saw the twisted part of it where women are continually allowed to not take themselves seriously, to be, you know, an afterthought, to be like a second hand, if I can call it that for lack of a better word, where like you're okay being an East straight, you know, even if there are makwapenis, but like, Mina, I'm the main one. What about saying no? You
because
know?
we're conditioned to understand that we are the main one, or we should fight to be the main one and not the only one, right?
Exactly.
But also what we're being conditioned to understand is that even in marriage, you must be okay with it, right? It's all conditioning for all of those things. And it's taking agency away from us, taking power away from us, conditioning us to believe that we don't have a say in our own lives or what happens to us. In fact, I guess for instance. Isithembu akusona esomuntu wesilisa. The power and the agency resides with women. And what we've done is we've twisted isithembu to be something that is about men and not about women. Remember, we come from a society that was largely matrilineal. We're a society that was ruled by women.
Yeah.
Divine feminine power was respected, was valued in Dulu. So I remember when I came out, and I was like, when this thing Yamnagwetu came out, and I was so livid, I was so angry. What are you doing? So I went back to speak to elders and people who would know more about culture and you know, where we come from. And I asked abantu abadala, and I asked amadoda. I asked amadoda to say, kanti this thing is tembu, like, how is it done? Iqhamuka. Because what I understood to be tembu is not what's being put out publicly. And it's misinforming young men, misrepresenting something that was actually a very beautiful culture. Isithembu esika mamkhulu, the first wife, or let's say the only wife in this case, who decides that as a woman in my home, maybe I'm sick, I can no longer satisfy this man. There's no one under 18 here, ne?
We hope so.
But I can no longer satisfy my man. Maybe I I can't do household chores, I can't raise the kids, or maybe biologically I'm unable to have children. So then she decides, agency. She decides, I'm going to go to Baba and say, Baba, we need another woman to come into this home and to come and help me. Not you decide, Ntate, that you now must go and find a helper for her as if she's got issues. She knows what help she needs. She runs the ship. She knows what help she needs. And she will go, not you, my brother, you will go and find a nice yellow bone for yourself. She goes to look for the help that will work for her. She goes and she scouts herself for that woman who will fit into this household because she knows and understands what she needs. Isithembu asisebenzi if the second, third, fourth wife you see, the problem is we think isithembu sisebenza because they submit to the man. Isithembu sisebenza if we all submit to Mamkhulu.
Wow, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. If I don't surrender and submit to Mamkhulu, isithembu sisebenzi. Because if we're sendoda, then we're going to compete. And isithembu doesn't work on competition. So the question our forefathers would ask themselves, or would have asked themselves in modern society now, where isithembu is the way that it's being done, is isithembu uma isithembu sangempela fanele sakhe singabhidlizi. It must build and not destroy. Isithembu sangempela siyakha asibhidlizi. Wow. I didn't even know that it's the woman who makes the decision, it's the wife who makes the decision to bring another woman in the family.
Precisely.
Wow, thank you for teaching us that. I think many of us didn't know that as well. You frame cheating not only as a betrayal in the book, right? But as an emotional abuse. I think a lot of the times we hear statistics, we see statistics that, GBV, we talk a lot about physical abuse because we can see it, it's evident. But emotional abuse, not so much. There's starting to be an emergence of that, but I think still very much an under wraps thing that we don't really talk about. Do you think society sometimes minimize the emotional, psychological impact of it? And how does that play out in how women then show up when they have to hide the emotional abuse, as a result of cheating or any other betrayal from the family?
Kana yini lesisho sesiZulu ukuthi umfazi ubamba ummese thipa ka.
That's what we say.
Guys, senzani ngamathipa? It's love. What is that? No, let's have honest senza. I'm not even married yet. Seningitshela ngethipa kanti sobulala bani? Who must die? Why are there tipas?
And why are you holding it from
on
the egg side?
Why? But it's all these things, all these sayings izisho umfazi, igama elithi umfazi ngesiZulu, which means ufaazi. So umuya lapha usuba umfazi uyofa futhi uyazi ukuthi usifelani.
You actually remind me of, I can't remember her name, but the lady who came to be your helper, and two of her sisters died from isban,
and then she went into the same marriage. Sifelani. Stop telling girl children ukuthi undaba yokubegezela and that cheating is okay. Of course cheating is emotional abuse, because what it says to you when a man cheats on you over and over is that you're not enough. And we haven't been taught to see ourselves differently. It takes a lot for a young person, a young girl who's been conditioned in the way that we grew up being conditioned and socialized to understand that when a man cheats, that has nothing to do with you, girl. That has everything to do with him. But in the world in which we are born in, it's not automatic. You've got to build up that kind of resistance, right? And that kind of understanding. For many women, when a man cheats on you, it really does become about yourself. We wear it, we think it's because, and that's why you come into a situation and you want to fight the girl. It's not about why. It ain't about her. And that's why when you find out that your man is cheating, the first thing that women want to do is to see her. Unjani? I just want to see what she looks like. And then we compare. Oqala BBL that's not organic. Then we want to compare. Oqala she's not as light-skinned as I am. Oqala le weave yakhe is so. We make it about ourselves.
It's okay if those things are in place. So what are we saying? Are we saying it's okay if the person is light-skinned,
But that's how we're socialized.
Exactly.
Is that even how we accept beauty standards is how we're socialized. Men dictate what beauty standards are to us. Amadoda asefuna izinqa seniyahamba niyoyithenga. They want a Kim Kardashian structure. Everyone is fighting. When is it ever going to be about us?
But you spoke about it earlier, Ayanda, and I remember working for this organization. There was a whole campaign around sexual harassment, educating and creating awareness of what it looks like, what it shows up as, because sometimes it's very subtle.
Yeah.
Right? It's like those subtle comments and stuff. And I remember saying that it takes, like when you were talking about marriage as an institution that's so important, and how we raise children is actually important, because we condition kids as the little ones when they're still young to say, when as a girl, this is how you behave, as a boy, this is how you behave. This is okay for you as a girl, this is not okay. And then they grow up like that, and then we expect a 40-year-old man in an institution like this to behave differently, but we raise them differently as a boy. And I think those are the conversations that we need to talk and be honest about how we're raising a boy child versus a girl child. And how do we condition them? How do we expect of them as they become teenagers and become young adults in society?
You can't raise protected boys, as Michelle Obama says, and responsible girls, and then expect that in a marriage that's going to work, because that's what we're doing. We're raising protected boys and responsible girls, and then we wonder why marriages are falling apart. A responsible girl is married to a protected boy. It's a disaster.
It's a disaster. So now, Ayanda, when you got married, right, you were an independent, doing it for yourself. What are the realities of getting married as an independent, strong-willed woman who has got their own values and know what they're about and almost like grounded in who you are? What was that like? What was that like for you? And I suppose the question is, what are the realities of such women in society, in your observation?
First of all, I just want to say to the young women here, we've been so conditioned to get married to the one who asks and not the one we choose. Men get married to the one they choose. And we're conditioned to get married to the one who asks, because we sit waiting for this guy to ask me. And if he's here now and I'm with him and he asks, we don't interrogate enough whether this is what I want. Am I choosing this guy, or am I saying yes because he's here now and he's asked?
Sure.
So a lot of us go into marriage very blindly. Very blindly, because yes, niyajola kumnandi ku-right, but is this the person that I really want? We don't interrogate ourselves enough as women about those questions. Do you know that boys and men do? Men do. Remember, Pelayena, he's in a society that allows him to date five girls at the same time. You're not. And I'm not saying Bantabam Hambani gen your children nama total 5. No, that's not what I said.
Please don't.
Please don't. I will tell you what I do say to my daughter. Wait until you know you are so solid and rooted in who you are. And Tata, I'm coming to your question because it sounds like I knew who I was when I got married. I didn't.
Okay.
Wait until you know who you are. I say to her, travel the world. Get married at 40 or 50 if you must. Let it not be the thing. And if you mustn't, it's fine. If you don't get married, it's fine. Lalalan, some of you, mhlawumbe umshado awabelwanga wona kusiwo wakho. And it's okay.
It's really okay.
It really is okay. You know this thing, yeah, when I say married to protected boy, responsible girl, some of you are queens in divinity. Bese niyoshada abantu kazana. And then when things don't work out in marriage, you don't understand why. Because you haven't come to understand who you are.
Yes.
Who you are.
Yes.
You see, once you know your worth, say know your worth, so you will know who is worthy of you. Know your worth so that you know who's worthy of you. So, makufika isikhathi somshado uvuma wena because well usekucelile uguy, but is this person worthy of you? Remember, we're talking about a lifetime.
Yeah.
Aswafuna ama divorces, guys, because alimazi ingane. So we try to avoid them. They happen, but we try to avoid them. And I don't speak as if I'm perfect. Okay? I'm going through my own struggles. I'm going through my own challenges. But again, it was this that I had not interrogated enough for myself whether this is who I wanted to be with. But you know what he did do? He ticked the box of not cheating. And that's the mistake we make. He ticks one box that is so important to you, that this guy doesn't cheat, and you ignore everything else.
Wow.
And they become an issue in the marriage. So, into nje ngifuna ukuyisho kunina ukuthi get to a place where you know yourself enough you know your worth enough to know that this person is worthy of me and worthy of me for a lifetime. And is this person going to adapt to me? Because as women we evolve, and we evolve faster and quicker than men.
Yeah.
Is this person going to adapt to my evolution? Are they open-minded enough?
Yeah.
Ukuthi bazo-evolve nami mangabe sengi-evolve. This is another thing that happens in marriage, is that women evolve and men stay behind. And we think we're evolving at the same time and we're not. And so you find yourself there and he's still back there. But the gap is so wide, you can't close it anymore. So, to your question, which was what exactly?
You said you said I asked my question as if you knew you're
Yes.
already there.
Yes.
But you said you were not quite there when I was said strong-willed who knows what they want.
I
independent
didn't,
woman.
I thought I did. Listen, you see, the conversations we are having about self now are not conversations we had at your age.
Yeah.
You have to understand how privileged and appreciate how privileged you are that these are conversations that is why we're seeing an evolution of what the divine feminine is showing up as, what the divine feminine is willing to accept and not accept. Because our grandmothers didn't have these conversations. This was taboo to talk like this.
Yeah.
And that's why babek ezela. And then we came as this generation who saw our mothers bebekezela, but then this conversation has been opened. So we're having these conversations, but there's also a part of us that still understands this aspect of ukubekezela. So we're like a two-in-one, and we're still trying to hlubula, and it's difficult for us. But we're raising a generation of girls who are saying, Ma, I'm not going to do what you did, and that's your generation, right? So I didn't know. I thought I did, but I
thought you
didn't.
did, yeah.
I was strong-willed, I was independent, but there is something that happened. That's why I get to, we must just have nje, just inkonzo on umshado, bantabam, you know why? Because it's one of the stages in a woman's life, because we're conditioned and socialized to wait for it all our lives and to make it the ultimate of womanhood.
Ooh, that's so
We wrap everything around it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we have to dissect indaba yomshado properly, because it was the one place, one chapter in my life where I actually lost myself. I hadn't in corporate,
You're lucky.
amongst
You're one of the few
amabhunu
lucky.
males, and I was just the only young black female. I hadn't. But when I got married, something happened to me. And I always make this example with my daughter to say, it's like when you go down the altar, when you're in this beautiful white wedding gown, or whether uvunulile or whatever it is, but it's almost like once you put that on, you cease to exist. And by the time you walk out of there with your husband, you are somebody else. You are this idea of what a makoti should be. And I became that. So it's one of the reasons why I say 5 years later in the marriage, I was already doing this, because I had tried to fit into a narrative of what marriage should be, and it wasn't me. It was based on what I was told that marriage is. But it wasn't me. Listen, there's how many billion people in the world? We can't all be the same makoti. How?
It's impossible.
It's not possible.
And I like what you said, Ayanda, that not everybody should get married. And I think it's because how we condition. If you're not married, it's like, oh, what's wrong with you? Tato, you have your own car, you're working. What's wrong with you? I mean, I remember going to my village and some women say, should we intervene? Like, should we intervene? What's wrong with you? And I think that's why then people feel that I'm not enough, that self-worth that you talk about. I think it's important for like you said, the conversation that you have with your daughter. It's important to have this conversation with girls, and you would be surprised, because I hear you saying you guys are in a different generation. You would be surprised where the people who still very much think like, I need to be married to be someone.
No, for sure.
I need to be, I need to do this to be worthy, to be recognized, to be accepted.
But Tato, also a lot of that pressure comes from our own families.
Correct.
Because I remember it didn't matter how much money I brought for Gogo, it didn't matter how much I would go there with my shiny, washed up BMW, and a heavy crosser at the back of my boot at Gwele, and she would still say, Upumkwenyan.
Yeah.
So a lot of that also comes from the pressure of our own families, where it's like, if singashadanga khona into wrong, kanti khona abanye bethu abahomkabayi. Some of us are just mkabayis. Umkabayi, the kingmaker, who didn't get married, stayed home, went and found a suitable wife for ubabu wakhe. Mpi yakhe.
We are on the Isibaya set now.
Went and found a suitable, umtania went and found a suitable wife for babu wakhe, and benza usenza ngakhona. Uzubizwa nje usenza ngakhona because senza ngakhona. We're doing it the right way, right? But she was the kingmaker and then groomed this young man to become king one day. You see, low shark, to become king one day. But kunabantu, so when I say umkabayi, I'm talking about your posture as a girl child. Umafungaswe. The firstborn daughter, you have the energy of the firstborn daughter. And for many of us who are firstborn daughters, it's very difficult in marriage because we're used to the independence of partner, making decisions, and, right? So it becomes very difficult when we get married.
Imagine.
And you see, now you get into a marriage and this person doesn't understand that umafungaswe. And your posture is that of a leader. And if they don't allow you to lead in your own home, it's going to be a disaster. Or if they don't allow themselves to be able to lead with you, it's going to be a disaster, right? So, kunabanye bethu abawomkabayi who possess the posture of mkabayis, who are not born for marriage, who must stay home and build the family home. And it's okay. It really is okay.
Yeah. I think I want you to just, as we conclude this part of the conversation, to just reflect on, there's a lot of things that we spoke about, being a girl, being a woman, what you aspire for. And I really want you to go and think what your worth is. Define it for yourself. Describe it for yourself. Reflect on it and own it as your truth. So that when that man comes, you can say what Ayanda is challenging us to say, is he worthy of me? You can't answer that question unless you've done the work, the inner work of truly understanding who you are and what is yours, and believing it and carrying that truth in every space that you go. So, Ayanda, let's talk about society and, the Dudu syndrome. We have to talk about this Dudu syndrome, right? Let's talk about the Dudu syndrome because, that just broke my heart. It broke my heart. I was like, no ways. It can't be. This story can't end like this. I want us to talk about that. Why is the pool syndrome so pertinent? It is pertinent in our communities, in our churches, in corporate organizations, in academia. The Dudu syndrome, the pool head drown syndrome, what from your observation do you think this syndrome is so pertinent?
Listen, I'm no expert. I can only talk from experience.
Yes.
I think it comes from straight, side, ushweza.
Sure.
Straight being the main chick, side being deputy. Ushweza being the one he goes to Magapampile and Astolang straight in the side chick. I say that in the book. And how you know who to ushweza. Do you want to know how you know?
Yes, please.
Because the men in this room are gonna be like, hey, keep my secrets it. But how you know who to ushweza? At the end of the call when you say, baby, I love you. Yabona lo khona imbodla ebhodlayo lapho ngoba iyazi. Iyazi ukuthi ngiyaphi. Umuthi nje baby, I love you. Athi guy ngiyabonga. You must know ukuthi uhlweza you don't fall under his threats. You are neither the side. But I think the fact that we've been conditioned from a very young age, one, to understand that authority resides with the man and so power resides with ubaba, means that we get validation from abantu besilisa. And so even by the time we get into the stage of relationships, we want to be chosen. So what automatically happens is that we're socialized to be each other's competition, main, deputy, hlweza. We're socialized to be each other's competition and not each other's allies.
Wow.
And I think that's a conditioning and socialization that happens very early on in our lives. And maybe we don't understand the impact of it. And because it shows up as competition, but we don't know how to link it back to how we were socialized.
Yeah.
But I think because of that socialization of having to compete, constantly compete for men's attention and validation, as young girls, for the father, one validation kababa, and then when we get into relationship, that of the boyfriend. By the time we get to corporate spaces and we're adults, we're just in a posture of competition with other women. We're just in a posture of competition. Kuba nzima ukuba yenye into because ngazi ukuthi for me ukuthi ngibe ngcono kunawe, I have to be more beautiful, I have to be this, I have to be, I have to outdo you in whatever.
Yeah.
So for me, Itutu syndrome, I think Ututu was probably in competition with me long before. And I just didn't know.
Yeah.
And it happens. We have friends, people that we really love and adore, that are in our orbits, in our circles, and we think they're friends, true, genuine friends. And then one day something just happens and they just unravel. And you're like, how? Bengihleli nale nyoka all this time. I just think people will be in your life and use you for what they can get from you,
So sad.
because they need whatever they can get from you. And then once they're okay,
They're gone. You don't matter.
they'll show their true colors. So I think with the Tutu syndrome, it was exactly that. Once she had been elevated and she was now a businesswoman, she was essentially like, yeah, bega again, I'm saying yafana now. I'm like, girl, I started this process. I wanted you to fane now. Actually, I wanted you to even be better than me because you own a business and I'm still employed.
I think that's the thing that these people will never understand. People who help them is they actually want them to be better, even to succeed. But I see this happen, that a lot of people who have what should I call it? They don't feel comfortable in their own skin. They're not worthy of themselves. They're insecure in a lot of ways. They show up like that because then you've just highlighted something in me that I'm struggling. It's like you come to expose me. You come to expose the deepest part of me, my vulnerability and my weaknesses, and I don't want the world. So when that comes to light, sometimes it becomes... So I think what I'm encouraging people is to just work on themselves. Is to really work on yourself, that when Ayanda comes with her light is not threatening to me. In fact, when she makes my light brighter, it's like, wow, I can do this, and who else can I help shine their bright? And I think that's the posture, borrowing from your word, that women need to carry, and then we can do away with the Dudu syndrome, because like I said, how the story ended was like, no, man.
It's also important, Sato, to do it with our girl children, because as a mom, I have to be able to instill that in my daughter, right?
Yeah.
That other women are not competition to you, but you can only recognize another queen if you recognize that you're a queen. A queen can't recognize another queen if you don't see yourself as a queen. You can't see in others that which you don't possess.
Yeah.
You've got to possess it first. That's why I always say, sometimes I really feel sorry for people who walk around with all this resentment and who are bitter about other women, because it must be a hard place to be in. It must be a difficult place to be in.
It's those codes that we spoke, it must be heavy.
Heavy.
So we're almost coming to a point where we're going to invite you into the conversation, so get your Q&As ready. But before we do that, Ayanda, what is becoming now that you've been on a journey? And I believe that this is a perpetual journey until we cease to live. But now that you are consciously and intentionally walking this journey of unbecoming, what does it mean for you now to unbecoming?
You're correct. It is a perpetual journey. The journey never ends. Some people think just because I finished writing the book, I was like, kunqotshiwe kufeziwe siyabonga Jesu. It just unraveled a whole other chapter. So the journey of unbecoming is a journey for me that it doesn't end, because there's always something else that's coming up. You can never address all the codes. But what it means for me now is that I'm very conscious about showing up in my power and not strength. I think one of the things that was a wake-up call for me was when my mom's older sister, passed away. And I just remember bawling my eyes out. This matriarch who had been such a strong woman all her life, right? Strong woman all her life. And when she passed away, one of the things that were absolutely devastating for me was the realization that she never got to live her life. She just survived life. And so I'm very conscious and intentional about not surviving life. but living life. And what that means for me is showing up in my power and not my strength.
Please,
And
can you talk about that? Can we just
talk about the
can we
power
just
and not the
unpack it to
strength?
help somebody to understand? Because, and I'll tell you why. It's because women have been taught and are still being taught to be strong. We are strong, and we celebrate the fact that we are strong. And yet you said your grandmother was a strong, strong woman, and you realized when she died that she died not having lived her life. And now when I asked you, what does unbecoming mean for you? Now you're consciously living in your power and not in your strength. Please, can we just zoom a little bit on that to help somebody who might be like, how do I do that?
So for me, now understanding who I am and having clearly defined it for self, the strength narrative for women is a distracting narrative from the power narrative. That's how I see it. Strength is a posture of war. When you have to be strong, it's because you're fighting. So the question becomes, because strength is a posture of war. Strength is a posture of defense. Power is a posture of being. When you know, when you are settled, when you are solid and you know who you are, you don't fight and show up in strength. You just be and show up in power.
Amen. That is so powerful. That is so powerful. I mean, when I see the word being, right, for me, I always unpack it because, I mean, being, I see it as be in. So you're being in. And that is why I talk about living inside out. So when you're saying it's the power is around being, I resonate with that so much, and I think it's an encouragement for you. Don't go for, what did you say? Strength is posture of war. So that is a beautiful way to wrap up our conversation. As we are about to, I hope the mics are ready. I want to say thank you so much, Ayanda, for this incredible conversation. Not only for the book, but for your honesty, for your rawness, for your vulnerability, for going there where a lot of us are scared for whatever reason to go there, for your vulnerability and willingness to invite all of us here into a deeper reflection of the journey that we are and truly becoming who we are meant to be. Thank you so much. All right, and thank you all of you. So I think it's time for Q&A. So if you've got a question for Ayanda, there's a time for you to now ask whatever question, whether from this conversation or from as you were reading the book. This is your moment. There are roving mics around.
I was about to ask.
That's joking.
So, boys, yes.
I'm now being wished to see Sis Ayanda.
Guys, we
wanted to
can't
say you're very
we can't
beautiful
see him.
and
Sorry.
Thank you. I read the book, and I had a lot of questions. But I want to be careful that it does not become a dialogue. But I've got a very, very burning question in terms of, and I think with the conversation when you spoke, let me start there, when you spoke about Omamkulu in Isitimbo being the one they submit to. And I'm saying, if that's the case, isn't it that then Mamkulu must have first became one with the husband? And becoming one, those are the principles of Christianity, those are the principles of two are better than one, meaning they must learn the husband and want to serve the husband above all, then they know what the husband needs, so that when the others, they come on board. So in a nutshell, the biggest thing, it's a matter of, in us answering the question of what we are becoming, are we also going to the point of what are we learning? What are we, because some of us unbecoming as it's not things that we have learned per se, but we picked up on the streets. You know, someone said, yeah, Christians say, amadlozi amadimoni. Christians are wrong. And I've never learned that anywhere. So if I say I'm unbecoming that, but I've never learned it anywhere, where's the learning that needs to happen? That can we accept that even Mamkhulu needs to learn much, much more about the husband, from Christianity, from God, and even more so that when a leader labantu lababa mamos two no three, then those ones, as they serve the Mamkhulu, they are serving initially what the husband wants. So I'm not sure where's my question, but can I close it there?
Bhuti wami, uthe uba igama lakho?
Oh, Prince Ngwenyane, sorry.
Ubani? Prince.
Prince
Bhuti Prince.
Ngwenyane. Unqobizo, sorry, because I'm Zulu.
Nqobizo.
Yeah. I'm not, yeah. Well, Prince Ngwenyane, I'm also an author as well, hence I had to read deeper and try to explore.
Okay. No, thank you for that comment, question. Guys, like I said, I'm not an expert. I'm not, I've picked up learnings along the way. I've done some research. I've spoken to elders. But I think the journey of becoming is a very personal one. I don't think we can blanket it because my journey is different to yours. Her journey is different to hers. I do think, though, when it comes to issues of isithembu, there are fundamentals that we can't afford to compromise because indoda ifuna. Umzula ngithi, ngokwazi kwami, isiZulu sithi, ikhaya umuzi kababa wakho. So, mawuswena ubhidliza ikhaya lakho, ubhidliza kwamuzi kababa wakho. Awubhidlizi nje umuzi wakho kuphela. What has that taught me? That as Africans, the concept of the collective surviving is paramount to who we are. That the collective must survive. Ngono kufo yedwa. So, ngiyakuzwa umuthi umamkhulu must know and understand ubaba so much. Of course she must, but just as much as ubaba must know umamkhulu and understand umamkhulu so much that we both know what will work for both of us. That we must both know what will work for both of us. Because you also can't sacrifice me as umamkhulu at the expense of what you want. Why? Ngoba ungilethe la ekhaya wangikha ezimbali enhle wayiletha la ekhaya wathi uzoyitshala egcekeni la ekhaya wangenza umalokazana la ekhaya. Wanginika isikhundla sokuthi one day even though ngumalokazana namhlanje ngelinye ilanga ngiyoba ugogo wala ekhaya. And ugogo is such an important element in the home. Ugogo ingakho esintwini sinendlu yogogo bese kuba nesibaya umsamo wamadoda umsamo wabantu besifazane because ugogo uyena obamba ingaphakathi inhliziyo yekhaya. Manje musuzobulala mina ngesithembu sakho ayisezi ukusebenza ke lento. Ngoba leli khaya angeke ngisakwazi ukuliphakamisa as the person who must, because here's the other thing, we need to think ukuthi this that I'm doing now, what impact does it have in the future? Lo gogo lo malokazana ozoba ngelinye ilanga akeze ukufika yini estageni sokuba ugogo ese ugogo ongekho right obitha ngoba engavumelani nalento. So ngakhi idlozi elinjani? Ngikhanda idlozi elinjani? ekuzofanele libe ugogo ngeli at the because mina right now inyama is saying this is what I want. But beyond that, ese ugogo futhi esengale sikhanda idlozi elinjani ngoba phela uba ugogo nje uba idlozi lokuqala kuthina ese ugogo la isaphila. Uba idlozi eliphilayo bese bayidlozi elingasekho uma ukuthi ke bakhona abakholelwe emadlozini. So I think into engizama ukusho ukuthi these journeys are personal for all of us. And you can't borrow from somebody else's journey. You can only take what works for you and what doesn't work for you, and in fact, the both of you. What doesn't work for the both of you, you chuck out. Asiniko omunye.
Yeah.
So buyela kuwena.
Hello.
Hi, Ayanda. First of all, I'd like to thank you for...
Who's talking?
Hi, Ayanda.
Hi.
Uh,
Awu, usiyami. Khuliswe kuphi? Ayanda.
no. The reason I said that you will hear why ngisho kanjani. As I was, first of all, I'd like to thank you for the amazing book. It is an amazing book. As I was going through the book, there's where you were offended by Ngosi Straight calling you Sisi. And it happened also when we had to come back to Joburg, to come to Joburg for the first time, and this boy was demanding that 5 rand, saying, "Sister, 5 rand." So understanding the book now that is about unbecoming the things that, that we have relived and actually becoming the people that we should be, do you really have a problem with being called sister or Sisi? Or it was just that thing that you didn't just like being called Sisi? Do you have a problem with aging?
Oqala intombi kaNkosi yayingibiza ngosisi ngoba efuna ube sengathi ngimdala kunayo. Thanks for your question, sis. No, I don't have a problem. I really don't. I think it's contextual. Kuya ngokuthi uba nokushoyo nokusho with what intention. So I think the intention behind side chick kaNkosi that I found him in bed with, for those of you who haven't read the book, was because she was wayengidelela kahle kahle ngoba wayefuna kube sengathi oh ngimdala kunaye and she's young and fresh. That's how I received it. And then yeah, sister, there's this thing, man, yeah, guys elokishini yokubizana ngosister, it's so impersonal. It just rubs me the wrong way. Ayinanhlonipho, even the way they say it, iyabhadlaza nje, sister. Yabona nje ibhadlaza nje, ayinanhlonipho. So that was my gripe with that. It just triggered something in me that I didn't like. I have a thing about respect. And that comes from how I grew up. Remember, I lost my dad when I was 11. So, uma uzoshonelwa ubaba ongenawo ubaba, awuhlonipheki. So, what would happen is, girls like me, abahle. Hey, Nina. So, what would happen is that girls like me, when you're out in the streets, we are shelwa, it would become rough. Because who are you going to tell? Don't have a dad.
Yeah.
There were men elokishini who would come and knock on my mother's window. Because I say, umfelokazi eshonelwe indoda. So I have a childhood wound about like disrespect, because it takes me back to that little girl who had to fight for respect because I didn't have a dad. So no, I don't have anything personal against being called usisi or sister. It's just contextualize it. mayingahloniphekile or inendelelo phakathi, then soxabana umayandiswa kwamashu uyavuka ne-all star.
Alala. Alala.
Don't let this fool you.
Sawubona Mangubane.
Sawubona. That's our designer, by the way.
Yes, you can call me Design Genie. Okay, so Mangubane, the question that I have is not from reference to the book because I'm here to read the book. I wanted you to make me understand how do you view alter egos? Because in my sense, to unbecome, it's almost like abandoning or silencing some of the things inside you that you've been carrying with you and to become something that it is not. So as a person, we tend to have like alter egos or multiple personalities. Not that they are disordered or something, but I would like for you to elaborate for me in what way do you understand alter egos and how do you characterize them in your work? Yeah.
I don't understand them. I don't characterize them in anything. Alter egos. Beyonce and what? And Sasha Fierce. Is that not the imposter syndrome? Really,
To an
to
extent,
an extent.
It is, to an extent.
So, let me give you the premise for what unbecoming to become is. It comes from the understanding that perhaps we are not meant to become anything, but that perhaps we are meant to unbecome everything that the world has ever taught us so that we can become who God truly made us to be. And I hope that somewhat answers you, because the unbecoming that you are talking about when you say you have to unbecome who you are, and I suppose that's the question you were asking, is how much of you is really you? How much of you is really you? And you are saying we are becoming something that we are not. No, unbecoming in fact says we must become the thing, we must unlayer. We must become the thing, we must find the thing, not become, find the thing. Go back to the thing that we actually are. Because what we are is everything that we are not. It's everything that we've picked up estradini. It's everything that we've been told by family. It's everything that society has told us. It's everything that we've adopted. That is not us. And some of it is us, by the way. So you also have to dissect how much of that is you, what speaks to you, and what doesn't speak to you. But what we do as individuals on our journeys of being an evolution is that we just adopt everything that comes with whatever is thrown our way. So even some of those things that so for instance, Mina, someone might say, I want to unbecome being a domesticated person because, you know, there's contestation around what domestication really means for girls and women, right? But let me tell you, I can't fight that thing. I am so domesticated, it's not funny. I love cooking for my family. I love cooking for my man. I love serving my man. Usevwa ngetray. I love doing those things. I love them. I love them. They are me. I love them. But in today's society, other women, feminists, may say to you, but you go wrong because why umseve or why kumele. But for me, that's very much a part of who I am. And so that's a part of me that I accept. That it's me. It might be something that the world says we must unbecome because we've been taught that we must be domesticated, which is true. But that aspect of domestication works for me. I love it. When I'm not doing it, I feel like I'm not in my element. I want to go home and cook for my men and my kids.
So Ayanda, actually, you have it in the title of the book when saying unbecoming to become me.
Becoming me.
So the me part is what you're saying is, that's why you're saying that unbecoming is such a personal,
journey.
And I like what you said at the end of the book. It's like returning to the self. The person has always been there. You just return it to the self and removing that which the expectation that we placed by the world and everything else. So, yeah, that's how I relate to it.
Greetings,
Oh, she's
Mangubane.
going to quote the book.
No, I don't have the book. I haven't read it yet. My name is Tracy, and I hope you're feeling welcome in our institution.
Sorry?
I was saying my name is Tracy, and I hope you're feeling welcome in our institution.
Thank you. I am.
I have just 2 questions for you. There's a lot of young people here, young ladies to be specific, and this question is for people in the audience. It's for you, but like I think the answer will serve the people in the audience. If someone around the ages of your daughter, like we are around those ages as students, some of us, and if someone in the room is in the messy middle of their own unbecoming, what's the first practical step you'll tell them to take? And the second question is, I know I've seen some of your talks and you speak openly about trauma, womanhood, and healing. How do you decide which parts of unbecoming you share publicly and what to protect privately? Thank you.
Beautiful question.
In the book, in the last chapter, I talk about the practical steps I had to take in my unbecoming to become journey. And I'll talk about a few of them. The first one is, first of all, acknowledge where you are. Acknowledge where you are. For me, I had to acknowledge that I was in a dark pit. I could have happily carried on surviving through that dark pit, but I had to acknowledge where I was. So it's the acknowledgement of where you are. What does Jay-Z say? You can't heal what you don't reveal. You can't heal what you don't reveal. So you gotta bring it to life to be able to give it life.
Yeah.
Right? So one is to acknowledge that this is where I am. And then it is to say, identify the roots of the codes that you are unbecoming. So when you do finally find time to read the book, I had to identify the coats that I was wearing. And that's why I start with the analogy that all of us, when we come into the world, we're wearing different coats, male and female. We're all wearing our unique coats. But by the time you reach age 25, you have all these other coats. Imagine a mannequin in a beautiful sequined ball gown. And by the time they've lived through 25 years, they've got amajazi, amambi, angolile. Some of them are tight, some of them are old, some of them are torn, some of them stained, like I said, on top of this beautiful garment that you came into the world with. So I had to identify what those coats were for me. And that's why I say, when I started to do the work, and I start with the chapter Dethroned, because one of the first memories I went to was the conversation with Ugogo. But every single chapter in the book is a quote that I had to take off.
Sure.
So what did Umjolo do for me? What quote did I put on when I was in my first serious relationship? And this guy constantly cheated on me, and I constantly had to fight for his attention and constantly had to fight to be the number one. It's that quote of being not enough. In the Becoming Damaged Goods chapter, I speak about having a child, or I write about having a child when I was 22, right? And what quote did I put on because of that? The quote of shame. And so with that quote of shame, I constantly walked through life thinking I didn't deserve better because I had shamed my family, I had shamed those who believed in me. And so what that does, even in how I show up in relationships, is you accept the crumbs because you don't think you deserve better, because you are, and it's all of these things are unconscious, and that's why you got to do the work. It's not it's a serious sit down with self and introspection, and it is painful. It is painful. So I had to identify what those codes looked like for me, right? In the Dudu syndrome chapter, I wore the coat of disappointment because I was disappointed by somebody that I thought I really loved me and that I really loved, and they disappointed me. And I thought this was somebody that mirrored me, and I mirrored them as another female. And I didn't realize that this person was battling their own demons, and they were just now projecting this thing onto me. But it hurt me. And that was another coat I wore about women, right? And so I walk around with distrust of women because I feel like they don't wish anything well for me. In fact, do well, but don't do better than me, right? And so each chapter speaks to a different code, and each chapter just helps you to understand what your codes are, right? So it's about identifying the roots. That's the second thing I did, was to identify the codes and identify the roots of the codes. And then what I did is telling myself a different truth about the codes. Do you know I hated my body?
You said.
For the longest time, I struggled with body image. Like, dude, I'm gonna tell you, I got a beautiful body. I know it. Lezi zingane nenithe ngayo, mina ngazalwa nazo. But I hated my body because somebody told me, somebody said something. And this is why it's so important what we say to our children. I affirm my children. So when they go to bed, it's good night, mama. Good night, my handsome, my beautiful, bright, intelligent, courageous, sweet boy, kind boy. This, I affirm my children because I speak life because I know the world is speaking death. So I speak life to my children. And there's so much death that's been spoken to us. This is the thing we don't understand. One sentence can change the entire trajectory of your life. Like I say, that's why I start with the dethroned chapter, because it was one thing that Gogo said to me. And it changed completely how I saw myself. So, utshela ingane ukuthi yimbi, I won. They don't need to hear it from any other person. They wear that thing, and that's how they walk into the world. I'm just an ugly duckling. I know people who don't take photos or hate taking photos because they feel like they're not good looking. So I hated my body. I hated my body because somebody said something to me. So I had to go back, and it was an ex-boyfriend, by the way. Rubbish. Abafana. Yekani abafana hlukanani nabafana. The boys. So I had to go back and identify the root of what those coats are that I was wearing. Why do I have body insecurities? And I traced it back to, there's a book called The Little Voice Mastery. I'll give it to somebody who can share it, but who can share the title and the author, but it's called The Little Voice Mastery. And what it teaches us is to win the war between our ears. The battle that goes on in our head about who we are. So it again teaches you to trace back these words that were said, the things that you believe about self. Everything that you believe you are. Listen, we are a total sum of everything, every experience, and every word that's ever been spoken to us, right? So everything that you believe about yourself comes from somewhere. So we have to try and trace it back to something. So once I traced it back, I then rewrite the narrative. So I then rewrite the narrative. I'm like, oh, Gogo said, I'm gonna marry, and so what did that make me feel like? Like I don't belong. No, actually I do belong. This is why I belong. And I don't need any validation from anybody else. I'm doing it. I'm doing it. This family is because I am. That's enough proof for me to know that I'm doing it. So there's no, I don't belong here, I'm gonna go to another. Mangiya kwenye family, it's fine. Nakhona ngizofika futhi ngibe indlovukazi nakhona njengoba indlovukazi la ekhaya. So I had to rewrite that truth for myself. So it's the unlearning and relearning, rewriting that narrative for yourself. And then taking responsibility. Because nobody had a gun to your head saying you must believe these things about you. So take responsibility for some of the things that you know, and forgiveness is also a big part of unbecoming. Like you gotta forgive yourself for not knowing the things that you think you should have known when you didn't know them, right? You gotta forgive yourself. I've made a lot of mistakes along the way. I've just had to learn to forgive myself for believing the things that I believed about myself. So forgiveness is a very big part of unbecoming to become. Then igama lakho is another big part. I always say when people don't know where to start with identity, start with your name.
Sure.
Start with your name. Igama lakho ma unhlupheko hamba ulishintsha. Go change it. Because here's what we don't understand, is that every time somebody calls out our name and we say yes, they are speaking that which they are calling into our lives. Mangabe ngithi Ayanda, mangabe umuntu ethi Ayanda, they are speaking ukwanda into my life, and mangvuma I accept. And everything in the spirit is agreement. So and then I accept. Yebo, ngiphendule. Igama lakho, if it doesn't make sense, make it make sense. There are people who change their names. Oh, Mom Wayne, I just watched the documentary. She went and changed her name. They called her Zanyiwe, or what's her, Begzanywan. I don't want this thing. Begzanywa in. I don't want this thing. So if it doesn't make sense, but start with your name, because your name is your first departure point. Mina even noma ngikhuleka, ngiyalikhulekela igama lami. And then I speak life, that which the name is.
Amen.
There can never be any lack in my name because I'm abundance. There can't be. So start even with it. When you don't know where to start with the identity, start with your name.
Hi, ma'am. I am Ndibuo. First of all, I would like to say you're a very gorgeous woman.
Ngiyabonga.
And also, I haven't read the book. I'm yet to read it. I want to ask you, what's one habit you built that helps you stay, become, instead of falling back?
Sure. Habits. It might sound cliche, but it's, for me, prayer and meditation. Yazi makuthiwa impilo iyalwelwa, because impilo is a battleground. Impilo iyalelwa. So prayer and meditation is just crucial to being able to center myself and remind myself of who I am. And I don't pray in future tense. And I don't pray about what I want or want to see. I pray, I speak things as they are into being here now. I'm very present. But also I think, so this is the second thing, it's just being present. We take being present for granted. Part of the reason why we make decisions without processing, even like marriage, is because we're not present. We're just not present beings. It's even worse manje because of social media. We're just not present beings. Remember, becoming is not just all the big milestones and the big things. Becoming is just every aspect of your life that speaks to even the small things. We've got to conquer even the small things that speak to us, that are us, right? So I think learning to be present, it's a struggle because there's so much noise. But what I am doing very intentionally and consciously is resting. I work hard for 2 years or so, and then I take a break, and I don't work. And I thank God because uNkulunkulu has been able to afford me the kind of life where I can take a break and say, I don't want to do this. I need to rest for my mental health and well-being because I need to be present and I need to be grounded. And so I'll work really hard for 2 years and then I'll rest for about 6 months, sometimes to a year. So I've just come back from my rest break, actually. 24 October last year was my last day on set because I didn't want to do the show anymore. And I decided ngizohlala ekhaya. So I went ngahlala ekhaya, ngatshala ingadi, ngatshala amaklabishi, imfino, carrots, ngatshala, and that's all I did. I just connected with the soil. And one of the things what that time afforded me was actually beautiful, because it reminded me of the power, and also I needed to heal because I just lost my twin. So, so much was broken in me. I mean, it still is, the healing from losing somebody that you really love and that you are so connected to. I think there's something wrong with the mic.
I've just
Okay, somebody that you really love and that you are really connected to was devastating for me, and it's still a process that I'm still navigating. I don't know how to, but I'm just taking it one day at a time. So just reconnecting with the soil and seeing something come out of nothing. Thank you. Seeing something come out of nothing made me reconnect with my divine power, the power of creation, just being one with the soil, that posture of when you are planting, you are in a posture of prayer, you are a posture of meditation. So those things were important for me. So it really is the third thing is just being intentional about rest. I rest. I've stopped thinking that movement means that I'm progressing.
Ooh,
I
powerful.
believe that rest is productive. So rest is productive for me. And I'm very intentional about it. Okay, there's another. Is it the battery? Is it the battery? You can come and change it.
Sanborani.
Sawubona sis.
Njani?
Ngiyaphila njani?
Nikhuluma no-Ayanda Mangubane, future Miss SA. My question to you, Ma'am Ayanda, is that I mostly resonate or relate to the Tutu syndrome. To a point, I feel like even the friendships I have after my Tutu syndrome, I'm like, yo, what if I do this and then masaya hamba njengaloya? How do you navigate to it? Okay, how was it like navigating other friendships after ututu is a kid's heal? Because it's still, for me, it left a scar, and I don't think it can be healed, because you're like, let's be friends, it's you friends. You get to a point, you cheat them as your sister, as your brother, and then you love them to that point, and then they disappoint you at the end.
So it's not on. It's on. So Shenge. You cannot control how people show up for you, no matter how much you try. You can only control how you react to that. The danger is that when people like that hurt us, we want to alter who we are to protect ourselves. So you want to ukushintsha as a defense mechanism so that you're not hurt again. But then that means you don't walk in your truth. So, and again, I understand, my daughter's 24. She has many struggles when it comes to female relationships, girlfriends and whatever. And it's going to take you, I'm going to be very honest with you, it's going to take you some time to build up resistance. You know, you're probably at the age you're at, not at the emotional level where you have built up resistance to be able to navigate situations like that healthily and in a way that works for you. But you'll get to it, as long as you understand ukuthi angeke uzukwazi ukulawula umuntu nokuthi ubehave kanjani, just as long as wena you don't wear that and make it yours. That's not for you to carry. It's their thing. And let it not alter who you are to the world and to self.
Wow. I'll take one last question, just one last question.
Hello.
Yes. Sorry.
My question goes here. I heard you saying something about being independent and leading all the stuff. So I want to ask, you don't think that there is something needed to be implemented on this thing you're so-called being an independent woman? Because if we can check, most of the people who are being divorced are the ones that are saying they are so-called independent women, because they want to behave in a way that they are behaving in their work. Then they take those things back to the house. Because remember, if we can check both biblically and our own ways here as Africans, a man is the one who is responsible for leading the house. So I think most of the ladies or most of women, they misuse this term or the title of being so independent in a way that
Ngiyakuzwa bhuti wami.
No, we
In a way that sigcine sikulimaza now.
I hear him too.
Can I tell you, women don't want to be independent.
It's exhausting.
Women, listen, and when I say independent, I mean, because manje angazi uma ukhuluma ngemali, yabo, but we don't want to show up in our masculine energy.
No.
We really, really don't. It is draining. You know why it's draining? Because it moves me away from my feminine energy,
Yes.
which is my state of power, my state of being, and in the posture in which I best operate in my feminine power. Why do you think? Maybe the question, Budwami, should be, why are women operating in their masculine energy? That should be the question that we should be debating. Why are women operating in their masculine energy? When there's no leader, women step in. But we don't want to. Trust me, we don't want to. But when there's no leader, women will step in. So I would implore, angisho ukuthi kuyafana yonke indawo. But I would implore ukuthi nathi as abantu besilisa sinuka amakhwapha. Ake sinuka amakhwapha. IsiZulu sithi, at a certain age, a young boy would be given a cow to look after. And he would look after this cow. And when we see as the family that he's looking after this cow very well, sizomnika umhlambi, meaning a herd of cows, to look after. Mhlambi wenkomo. And he would go and herd these cows. Mina, as a young maiden looking at this young man who's herding cows, I'm looking at a responsible young man. Because ngesintu, we did not believe that you could look after a family if you couldn't look after cows. That is why isisho sithi ubuhle bendoda izinkomo zayo. Nina senicabanga ukuthi imali. It's not money. Ubuhle bendoda iyinkomo zayo because ubuhle bendoda is the responsibility akwazi ukuyimanage towards his own family. You can have your Porsches, your mansions, you can have your mines, you can have your billions. If your family, if you have not created a conducive environment for your children and for your wife to thrive, you are not a man. So I guess it's nukamakhwapha samadoda ukuthi umkami eze assume I-energy yokuba indoda la ekhaya. Iphi indoda? Angeke ngibe indoda uyindoda wena. I can't. But men are neglecting the responsibility of being men. And women are having to step in because they have children to raise.
Don't have a choice.
So ibuyela back kulento ya protected boy, responsible girl. You protect this boy, nimspoile, nimenze inkosi, ngizoyisho nje ngesizulu ngokulengisa amasende namenza inkosi. Namenza inkosi. Namenza inkosi. Mase ubaba wazi ukuthi ubaba ngokulengisa amasende angafundi ukuthi ukuba indoda means being responsible for those I'm entrusted with. So iproblem yethu basekutheni sifuna ukuhlonishwa nala ngafanele sihlonipheke khona. Ake sizinuka amakhwapha nathi samadoda ukuthi yini esingayenzi kahle oma bethu bethwele kanzima kangaka. Bafethu sesihlulwa nje even ukuvula isicapha semoto for umuntu wesifazane. Into esizibonayo namhlanje uma uyafika negross endlini ubaba uhleli udlala iPlayStation. Yini labadoda amadala ethanda ukudlala iPlayStation?
Whoa, that's sad.
Sibhizi ku social media samadoda. Nenzani ku social media? Nenzani? Ngeke nje. Red billboard. Wenzani ku social media?
Real. Wow.
Angwabhesha madoda. Angwabhesha madoda. You know, people used to say, I'm a feminist. I'm not a feminist. By far, I'm not a feminist. I love men. Ngiyawathanda madoda. Amadoda ngiyawathanda siyawadinga futhi. Let nobody, kunento amadoda nayo engeke izonixaka. Amadoda siyawadinga. Men are important to the equation of society. Operator wholly, function healthily. Men are important, but I just want men who are functional, men who are healthy, men who don't oppress us, men who don't abuse us, men who lead us.
Preach.
Men who lead us. Lead us. Then we won't feel the need to lead. Lead us.
Preach, sister.
Then we won't feel the need to lead. I'm not a feminist by far. Not a feminist. Amadoda siyawadinga. Ningacabangi nje ukuthi amadoda awadingeke ezweni. Amadoda siyawadinga ezweni. Siyawadinga. They must protect us. They must provide. They must be men. They must lead.
Period. What a real note to end it on, right? Period. Wow, thank you so much, Ma. Thank you so much. That was so real. And I'm sure for many of us, it resonates very deeply. It's definitely a heartfelt conversation. And I'm hoping that, you know what, it affirmed you in your own identity. And if not, then maybe it sparked the desire, right, for you to know yourself a lot more better. So I'm truly hoping that you have grabbed a lot from this conversation. Thank you once again.
You're welcome.
Thank you, ladies. Just to move on to our next item on our program, we will be having a performance, a poetic and acoustic performance from Setswana, right? I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. Setswana. Setswana. Setswana.
Setswana.
Setswana.
You're in trouble.
Setswana. All right, Setswana. Okay, I'm so sorry about that. But before I get into that, just a quick announcement. I have a key. This one is for NT Shabalala. So if you lost your key, please, it's with me, all right? So, Setswana. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. She'll pronounce it correctly. It's okay. Lady, the stage is yours. Thank you so much.
Oh, Tatawo.
Still on stage.
Khale ba sa bone sa hata Setswana taba di hlaya o hlaile jwale ba re wa ikgantsha tjhe empa ba sa tsebe ba wena ha o hlae fela o kgetha dibaka etso le gauta ela to fela mokoting e bonesetswa ka lampi ya sa o tsebeng a o botsa Afrika o bana ha etswa le fela dibabala di kgalala di kakapa di botswa mokokotlong wa yona taimane le silvera ke tse dintsa yona le nna
ke e mong wa tsona mpitse botho botala o tlo bona a hlathile le ke sa tsebe e tlo tla bo sa nepa fela o tla bo pile kgomo le naka botala bona ke botle ba dipalesa tsa Afrika o bona hantle le bohlorisa ngwetsi botsho rona bontshonyana re tswala fela re pepile le nyelenyele ya le dumedisang ke Setswana ke tlolo sa Taung ke motaung wa Maphunye o itse ka Maphunye di tla hlabana ntwa se tsa makwala di jwang fela ke mmusetsi wa thulong ke moletsane Lesedi ke kopa le ntumelle ke setse thothokiso empa ke le phethele pale ke re through the nights filled with dark clouds tears rain down my face as the least of the pain inside my heart. The silence was so loud. The only voice I had was the pen and tears to paint the paper. And in shadows deep, I wrote in fear, with every whisper inked in sorrows who each drop. And my story was still untold. My dreams unspoken and my heart unhealed. Yes, I tried. I tried to search for a spark of light within the dark to guide my ink along. And guess what? Honorable doubt paid me a visit. But through that silence, my pen within a trembling hand, and the tears carried on and on and on until he was gone. And that's when I found my song, my peace and my melody, the melody of my own becoming. And from that moment, I told myself, never will I allow fear and doubt to bind me. I wrote in bold, I am free. Letting each drop tear release and heartbeat transforms into verses as I broke the silence. So what I'm going to say to you is, in every situation you find yourself in, do not let fear to bind you. Ke re wena hloka pelaelo ngwana mo Afrika senna o la o tsebe sehlohlolong se o tla fihla. Gale wa hlaula o hlahlathela maoto wa wopa ka ditlhabela bohloko ba bopepe ne mbutse jwale ke tsipa sehole hohle mo fihlang ba o reile ramathata ke eo empa ntshepehle ha ona ntwe mpe sena molemo gale ba o tshepisa bosiu boela ba o fetoela qaba la hao ba le tshela ka letswai ka mehla ba le balo ba ke lona le pakisang fodisa bohloko ba hao empa ka ha se jang monna se moqete nka tsohle tseo lefatshe lo pharang ka tsona ha borokgo di mabodiba ba mathata a hao ha malapelo ke nye dinalo ngwarapello o tshwarele sa tshweni pala masefate o tseba lefatsha lo kolote empa ba hao bokamoso bo ka ro diatla tsa hao. I always say, if you can imagine it, then you can make it. Eno ke Setswana, ke tlolo sa Taung from Creative Arts Lesedi.
Setswana, thank you so much. That was beautiful. That was very heartfelt. We have definitely moved to a point where, if you've checked on our social medias leading up to the event, we did promise a book giveaway. And we initially had a way that we wanted to do it, but change of plans. Right, since we're having a very heartfelt conversation, we thought maybe it would be good to let Mangubane choose any 3 people that she felt had the most amazing questions that she'll give the books to. You know? Right? Does that
not
work?
fair.
It's not fair.
What about
It's
the
not
ones who
fair.
couldn't ask questions?
All the questions were relevant. Okay, so how many people? How many
3
books do we
books.
have? And how many people ask questions? So can I see can the people who ask the
Yes.
questions stand up?
That's why.
Okay.
And the gentleman there at the back. Yes.
So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yes.
Okay, so everybody gets a book.
Welcome to the Oprah Winfrey Show. You get a book, you get a book, you get a book. Isn't that amazing? And I mean, if you still have some burning questions, maybe some answers are in the book. So if you didn't get the book today, buy the book, okay? Yes. Definitely. But now we're moving on to the next point, which is reflections and vote of thanks from our leader, Saneliso Mavuka. Please welcome her.
Afternoon. Zinhle, you're going to need to take the names of the people, just in case they write about us saying we didn't give them their books. Definitely they'll get a signed copy before they leave the venue. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Saneliso Mavuka from VUT FM. And yeah, I'm emotional because we come from far with this series of chapters and conversations. But most importantly, as we draw closer to the end of today's chapters and conversation series, I would like us to reflect mostly on a meaningful journey that has been shared with us by Mangubane. And today was not simply about a book, I believe. Like all other conversations, as much as we write, and you also write in the book, it ends with a full stop. Let us not end it. Let us end this conversation with a full stop today. But more than anything, through the journey of unbecoming, I think Mangubane reminded us of a growth that often begins with letting go of pain, doubt, and this has been the perfect space to actually interpret that for each and every one of us who are here. To our students especially, thank you so much for gracing us with your presence and being part of the conversation. And I hope that from the moment you walked in, there is some sort of healing that you will get when you step out of this hall. At this moment as well, it is important to extend my sincere gratitude to everyone who contributed towards making this day possible. I'd like to firstly thank Sis Ayanda Mangubane Borotho. Thank you for sharing your story with us. Thank you for honoring our invite, and also just your journey of authenticity and leading us with grace in today's conversation. Your words have touched our hearts so much, and you've contributed towards what we envision as a team to see where chapters and conversations is going. And then also, I'd also like to extend my appreciation as well to Ms. Tato Beleng for saying yes at a point where I needed to decide, who's going to facilitate this conversation for us, who would be the perfect person, who would really get to the bottom of this. It was without a doubt that I needed to ask you. Thank you so much for facilitating today's conversation. Thank you for guiding the dialogue and giving it life. And a special word of gratitude as well goes to Setswana. That was beautiful. Setswana. our poet. That was so beautiful. Thought-provoking. You left a very stern message, and thank you so much for agreeing to be part of this program today. I'd also like to thank Ms. Lufele, our Director of Stakeholder, for believing in this initiative. I'd like to thank as well, Ms. Tengi she's not here, but I know she's definitely watching as well. And I'd also like to thank the entire marketing and communications who've really assisted me from the get-go. When we started our first series with Okaya Dlanga last year, it was without a doubt that I needed to step and knock on your doors to say, let's bring this, make it even better than it was before. And I'd also like to thank the team that is really helping us with live streaming. People who couldn't be able to join us today are definitely watching from the comfort of their own homes. Thank you guys so much for making it possible. To the comms, to the writers, to my team at VUT FM. Let's keep the conversation, and let's make sure that we make literature, book reading, and as well as just the beauty of telling our stories. It starts here at home with us at VUT, and then we can take it to the world as well. I have a token of appreciation for Sitrana. Can you come through as well? These are just to say, please take the brand with you wherever you go. Let me just start with you. Thank you so much. May you take the brand with you, Susanna, wherever you go. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone, for gracing us with your presence. Remember, as we walk out today, you can get in touch with Sis Yolanda. She's up here in front. She'll be in one of the tables. If ever you want to get yourself a copy, you can just leave your name with her. The book copies are going at 300 rands a copy, as we've mentioned before. So please, you don't want to miss the book. Get yourself a copy and read it. And also to the 6 people that we're asking, that were told to stand up to ask questions. Pardon?
Yeah.
Oh, 250 for students. Okay, 250 for students a copy. And then for everyone who's bought their copies, we've got a book signing that will take place there at the foyer, where you can get your photo session with Sis Ayanda and also get your book signed. Thank you so much for being part of the second series. See you on the next one.
And just like that, it has become the end of, beautiful session from the chapters and conversation, where we were unlocking the beautiful book, Unbecoming to Become, by, special guest Ayanda Borotho. And I must say, it has been a fruitful one. I told you that chapters and conversations, so that are able to have stories of dialogue and curiosity and speak more books and what it is that we are doing. Okay, so guys, as you all see me right now, I am at the mirror, and the main idea, we started off in the morning asking the big question where it was, what are you unbecoming? So right now, I am at a station where I'm a big grown and I've evolved. So the person you are becoming is already looking back at you. That's why I'm finding myself here by the mirror to see who I am, this new person. So it has been a fruitful one, I must say. Really, really have been an awesome experience to be here by chapters and conversations. So as we move through, what we are seeing that a number of people have already been stationed here. A lot of them have written down what it is that they are becoming, unbecoming. And I saw another one, some person said, I am unbecoming apologetic. And another one says, I am becoming, not rude, I'm not being lazy, and I am becoming unapologetic and not dwelling on the past. Some person said, I am unbecoming on teaching old lions new skills, and someone wrote, unbecoming to become a lioness, and then someone said, I am going to be unapologetic about my boundaries. And then someone that wrote, learning to love me more. So that is what we at. A lot of you have written down already what it is that you are becoming this very midday. Super excited to have gotten through with you on this beautiful journey of unbecoming to become. So I'm seeing people come down from the Desmond Tutu Hall, and I would like to give this mic to our special guest, yes. No, what is a breezy one, I must say. But I must say, can I just say, thank you so much for coming to our event. My name is Lebogang Dolo. Yes, and we would just like to ask you, what has your overall experience been since you're here at the Vaal University of Technology? Could you just take us through what it meant for you to be in our premises and talking to us young black people today?
It really has been lovely to be here. It was warm, it was welcoming, I felt embraced. But more importantly, it's just always so beautiful to be in the presence of young people. It always reminds me of why I did this to begin with. It reminds me of the goal that I was, the fire and the passion that I had. And it always reignites that spark whenever I'm in the presence of young people. But most importantly, it always just reminds me why I did this in the first place.
Thank you so much. And any one last word in overall describes the day?
Whew. Gosh, just one.
Just one word.
Impactful.
Thank you so much to our special guest, Mrs. Ayanda Borotho. Thank you so much. And guys, we're still here by the Desmond Tutu foyer. Maybe we could get a reaction. Maybe I'm going to randomly pick someone who is here. Hi, pretty lady. How are you?
I'm well. How are you, Sisi?
I'm good. Who are we speaking to?
You're speaking with Nonkululeko Kluza from the registrar's office.
And could we just talk to us? Could you talk to us? We are here, we gathered here because we are like book lovers and stuff. So what can you say? What can you tell us about the impact that this whole event had?
Basically, I think for the younger girls that have had this notion that relationships are in thing, I think it's an eye-opener for them to learn that we are in an era of promoting girl child, an era of promoting ourselves and being true to ourselves. And one thing I can say to them is everyone deserves to be their true self.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Guys, we're still here. We're still getting into our reactions. Maybe I can pull another person. I don't know who else I can pull from the crowd. I don't know who else I can pull from the crowd, but let's see who else we can talk to. So guys, we are with our very own MC, a host for, the entire event, but I think it's valid that she introduced herself to those that are viewing, of course, on our live streaming. So let me give her the mic.
Hi, my name is Tato Belang. I'm so glad to be here. What would you like to know? What do you want to know?
I just want you to just give your honest reactions of the impact of you being here today. What did it really teach you? How do you feel of you, having set foot at, the Vaal University of Technology? What does this mean for you?
Well, it was great. I enjoyed spending the afternoon here. This is a conversation that's close to my heart. I relate with the journey of unbecoming. Is something that I've had to do personally in my life, and really something that's special to me. I know it's a lot of work that people have to do. You have to be committed to doing the work in yourself and honor yourself in that way. I think that's the best gift you could ever do yourself. So I hope the conversation disrupted yourself in a big way. It made you think a lot. It made you interrogate your ways and your thoughts in a way that you can see yourself as worthy again. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And the last one. What are you unbecoming today?
I'm unbecoming being everything to everyone. As a mother, as an aunt, as everybody, I tend to overexert myself and think that I can be everything to everyone. So I'm unbecoming that so I can learn to rest and become something to me and give myself time and rest as well. Yeah.
Thank you so much, guys. And we are ending it off here. That was that on our chapters and conversations, broadcasted live from the Desmond Tutu Great Hall, and it was a bomb.